Have you seen these fucking clowns in the Democrat Party lately? Have you turned on the news? Have you seen news feeds on your device, on your smartphone, on the internet, laptop, desktop? I'm One Sir Grove, OSGOA. That's One Sir Grove. Thank you for tuning in to Casting 495 Celebrities Worldwide, C4CW. The topic of today is, have you seen these fucking clowns on TV and in internet feeds, news feeds? I'm talking about the Democrat Party. Have you seen these motherfuckers who claim to be democratic in nature? The Democrats, the Nephilim. These motherfuckers, man, are clowns, and they are demon clowns. I don't know, like, if you've been paying attention to the news and all of the shit that's been going on in terms of the clowns in the Democrat Party. The Democrats, these Nephilim from hell, these sick, disturbed, fucked up stooge clowns, they are representative of what is considered today's left. The left. What's left over from your holy Christian Bible in terms of Genesis moving forward, the fallen, the Nephilim, the troglodytes that crawled out of the primordial soup of the evolutionary story that you were told in your classrooms. You know how you were told that you come from monkeys and fish? You know, the story of evolution, that you were a monkey, you were a fish, and then at some point you stood upright, lost a tail, now you have a tailbone, a coccyx, and you're more upright than a knuckle-dragging Australopithecus or whatever the Latin is on the monkey chimp terminology, phraseology, verbiage. So the story of evolution goes that there were fish and there were primate chimps, baboons, orangutans, monkeys, rhesus monkeys, however many millions of these different types of primate, chimp monkeys and fish that were in this primordial soup sea. And then at some point over millions of years, let's just say eons, over eons, all of a sudden, somehow these fish and these chimps, they started to stand up, like out of the water. Like the fish, they turned into monkeys, and then the monkeys that were dragging their knuckles across the earth, they stood more upright with a straighter back, and then the tail somehow disappeared, and now it's a little clipped tailbone, which is the coccyx. And so we're from the planet of the apes. That's the story that we were told. And it's the story that's taught in classrooms where there is no longer, in a large part, largely, the Pledge of Allegiance with the American flag. That used to be the case, which was that there was an American flag that students would salute in the morning as part of the Pledge of Allegiance. They were honoring the flag in that they saluted the flag, because when you would put your hand over your heart and you would observe the flag, being in observance of the flag, that's essentially a salute to the flag. Even though it's not a military salute, you're still saluting the flag. You're honoring America. You're honoring the flag. Well, that's what used to be the case in most classrooms in America, unless, of course, based on some type of religious faith preference, objection, then you would not salute the flag. You would not observe the flag. You would not participate in the Pledge of Allegiance. Coming from the planet of the apes, these troglodytes is what they are, those who actually, well, because technically they were troglodytes. They in fact were. They started off as bacterium, some type of unicellular amoeba, some type of multicellular thing that later became something more complex in nature, but originally it was unicellular, then it was multicellular, and from that spawned more and more different types of things like fish and birds and chimps and dinosaurs. And so somehow, some way, over millions of years, the complexity became even more complex. And then you had monkeys, chimps, baboons, orangutans that stood more upright and had more of a straight backbone, and the tail disappeared. And that's the story that humans are told on this timeline. The story is that we came from the planet of the apes. Planet of the apes. Because that's what humans, that's what we were told. That's what we were told in school. That is the story of evolution. That humans had been apes. Humans were apes. humans, in other words, Homo sapien sapiens, because we're supposedly Homo, or I'm sorry, what am I saying? Homo sapien sapiens. Homo sapien sapiens. That is what we supposedly are, which basically means that we came from chimp, baboon, orangutan, ape to human. You see the leap, you see the, ape to human. So we're from the planet of the apes, according to evolution. And that's exactly the story. Someone may disagree. There may be some biologist, ecologist, altruistic ontologist who lives in some type of utopian world. Someone who believes in open borders and things of this nature. Someone who is an oncologist or a whatever-ologist, a Scientologist, whomever. I'm just saying, there are Scientologists, there are ontologists and ecologists, and there are biologists and there are oncologists and other ologists. So someone, a botanist perhaps, someone may disagree and say, well, that's not exactly what the story of evolution is that we came from fish and apes. And I would say to that person, fuck you, that is exactly the story of evolution. Because in the book, it shows the chimp and the fish and then the human, the upright human. It doesn't work the other way. It doesn't work that there were fish monkeys and then from that later became something else, which are humans, and that humans are separated in the lineage, the timeline of events, human events or earth events, geological timescales, the evolution of humans from primordial soup. It doesn't suppose that humans were separate in the story of evolution. It doesn't suppose that humans are a separate thing, that humans came to be a completely different thing, born of just something just totally separated from monkeys and fish. No, what it says is that fish and monkeys spawned humans. That's exactly what the story of evolution says and tells and teaches. So people who are evolutionists, they become angry and frustrated sometimes when you bring it to their attention that their story states and demonstrates and illustrates and shows that humans are derived from, spawned from, grown from, born from, were caused by, were created by fish, monkey, chimps. You show them that evidence. You say, look, you're teaching evolution. You're saying that humans used to be these other organisms. And when you do, and you point out that you're saying, look, you're saying that humans used to be monkeys, used to be primates, used to be chimps. That's your fucking story. That's your fucking story. Is it not? Is it not? Is it not? And then they become befuddled and perplexed and they become frustrated because what you're saying is you're like, look at the chart, look at the thing on the wall, look at the magazine, look at the textbook, look at your story of evolution. It shows motherfucking fish, like the Darwin bullshit, the fraud shit. It shows the fucking fish, and then it shows some type of like reptile shit. And then it's, from an amphibian to reptile, then to some type of fucking like monkey baboon, and then it's a human. That's what you're saying. That's absolutely what you're saying. And you see, they become befuddled and puzzled and perplexed because even though you show them what it is that they're teaching, they are frustrated and angry because even in their minds, the story doesn't add up. It is one of the greatest fucking lies in human history. One of the greatest fucking lies. Evolution is one of the greatest, most grand deceptions of all time in human history. It's unconscionable, man. It's almost unfucking believable. It is surreal that humans on Earth would believe that they come from monkeys, baboons, apes, chimps. That is what their chart shows. Look at the evolution chart. Look at the picture. Look at the illustration. And it clearly fucking shows that humans were born from apes. That over time, apes, chimps, baboons, monkeys, primates became transformed into, metamorphosized into humans. It doesn't show that humans came from anything other than what I just stated. Evolution does not show that humans are derived from, born from, came from, materialized from anything other than primates. Humans are supposedly from primates, according to evolutionists. That's the fucking story they teach in schools as science. That's like some shit out of a nightmare movie, dude. It's like some shit out of a motherfucking nightmare scenario movie. Like, you talk about dystopian future. You talk about you talk about movies where a dystopian future is shown. Think about now. Right now, it is taught in schools that humans came from fucking chimpanzees, monkeys, primates, apes. That's what the fucking chart shows, dude. It doesn't show, well, these were the primates, and then somewhere over here out of nowhere, humans were also like born into the world. No, dude. No. Because if it showed that, then it would completely, totally contradict the whole story of fucking evolution. Think about it. All right, so check it out. This is One Sir Grove, and thank you for tuning in. If you're a fan of this show, if you support this show, we 495, man, we appreciate you. So look, let me put it in perspective in non-technical terms. This is all it for those who consider yourselves non-technical. You're just like, look, just break it down, explain it in layperson terms, just for the non-technical audience. How do you see it? How would you explain it to someone who isn't technologically savvy per se? Just like, what is the plain English on it? How, if evolution isn't real, then what is, in your view, in your opinion? All right, so look, this is how I understand it. Not only is the story of evolution made up and deception, artifice, fraud, the reality, on the other hand, as I understand it to be, is that when, for example, if you, that is someone, looks at what is supposed to be an evolutionary chart, like the evolutionary timeline of species going from this thing, be it fish, monkeys, apes, chimps, primates, to then humans, just to be easy, because sometimes those evolutionary timeline charts, they become very convoluted. I mean, they're already convoluted and stupid, extremely stupid, but some of them detail all kinds of bullshit, even more so than what I just stated. There are all these different species, and they're morphing and doing all this bullshit and all this fake shit because it's all fake. But some of them have more species than just fish, chimps, apes, baboons, and then humans. So when you look at those charts, those supposed, that is so-called evolutionary timelines of human development, right? What happened in reality is that there were certain species on Earth that, say at, for example, this geological timescale, we'll just go with 290 million years ago. Fuck it, 300 million years. Let's just make it 300 million years ago. I'm just saying, as an example, like, it doesn't even have to be that exact time. In other words, whatever happened 300 million years ago, that is irrelevant. I'm just saying, let's, for example, go back 300 million years ago. Whatever was on Earth at that time, even if it seems like an anachronism, in other words, if it seems timeline-wise as if what I'm about to say it doesn't make any type of like timeline sense, let's just say that there were hominids. Something that looked like an ape, something that looked not human, but something that looked more primate in nature. So in the Christian biblical sense of it all, God created the world, the universe, everything, and more or less said, according to the Christian biblical Bible, well, that is the Bible, in the biblical sense of it all, God created everything: animals, humans, animals, the earth, the terrain, the landscape, the sky, the atmosphere, space, celestial bodies, space-time. Everything was and is God, because God is omniscient, omnipotent, knows all, is all-seeing. So in order to see all things and know and sense all things, you would have to be all things. Every tick, every little point, every little pixel, every little plonk, length, every little piece, speck of space-time would have to be God. So that means that we're all God, because we're made in God's image. I'm saying that we as humans were made in God's image, so we're like a fractal of God. Everything, birds, the earth, the air, whatever you see, whatever is there, whatever is unseen, it's all God, because God has to know all things at all time. Therefore, everything is God. That's the only way the math adds up, and that's the only way that it works. So God, from clay, formed, that is, shaped humans, because God is the grand architect in the biblical sense of it all in the Bible. God took clay, whatever matter is in the earth, that is clay, those elements, and from those elements shaped, that is, formed humans, and said, okay, as a sculptor, as the grand architect, this is what humans are to be. The issue is that with the evolutionary so-called theory, which discounts God, which says there is no God, which says that atheism is a reality, that everything is just fucking random, and that somehow, some way, cosmically, over time, that these bacteria, they somehow became intelligent, and they crawled out of a soup, which was the ocean, which was the primordial soup, the cradle of life, the Fertile Crescent, out of some type of water body, some body of water, some type of soupy substance. Humans, we were supposedly bacteria that became intelligent, and then more intelligent, and then more complex, and more intelligent, and then the next thing you know, we're fucking fish, and you know, because we were insects first, and then we were fucking fish, and then we were chimps, and then we were fucking humans. That's the story of evolution. You will have fools. You will have motherfuckers tell you, they'll talk to you, they'll say to you, they have this whole story, this whole charade, this whole facade about how that shit happened. Nonetheless, whatever they say, however convoluted it is, however fucking complex and how elaborate it's orchestrated by them, and it's woven together in their whole like mosaic of a narrative, of a fucking storybook, of a fable, of a motherfucking Aesop's fable. Okay? By the way, Aesop's fables were dope, so I actually shouldn't use that as an example, but their shit is a fable. Okay? So, which it's not okay that it's a fucking fable, because it's the grand deception. It's one of the greatest lies of all time, human history. Pun intended, human history, because it's not real fucking human history. So, when you bring it to their attention, and you say, so you're an evolutionist, right? Like you believe in evolution. You taught your kids evolution. The school district where your kids go to school, it teaches evolution. The classroom that they're in teaches evolution. So you don't believe in God, right? They're like, no, we don't believe in God. We're atheists. And you're like, okay, so you believe in the story that humans evolved from other species, other beings, other creatures, right? And they're like, yes, that's true. And you're like, so what were those creatures? They're like, well, there were primates, and then over time this happened, and then, you know, the whatever primates stood upright, and then became us. And you're like, all right, well, what were before the fucking primates? What else was there? Because you can't just have a primate crawling out of soup. So the primate, according to your story, in your math, in your logic, in your science, it has to have been something else. That chimp has to have been something else. So what was the primate What was the thing that was walking? What before it was walking? What was it before it was walking? It was crawling, right? It was like it was not upright. So what was the thing before upright Homo sapiens? I said Homo sapiens because it's all stupid, dude. Homo fucking sapiens, before Homo sapiens were walking around the fucking earth, Homo sapiens, before we were walking around the earth, we were something else, which was a primate, and then before and then before the primate, it was something that was like lurched over, hunched over, that was like knuckle dragging, and before that, there was something that was crawling, right? Like turtles and fucking amphibians and some type of weird complex multicellular shit that was like some type of blob. And then before that, it was like troglodytes and some type of fucking amoebas, right? That's what it was, right? That's your story, right? Because if you say any fucking thing else, you contradict your own fucking story. If you say anything else, if you try to interrupt, if you fucking don't answer the question, and if you don't agree, then you contradict your own fucking supposed story of motherfucking goddamn evolution. And that's the thing, is that they try to confuse you because they know in their human psyche, they know that their story does not add up at all and it's bullshit. Now, Darwinism Under a Microscope, that book. There are people that will tell you, oh, those people are intelligent designers. That book, it's just fucking fraud. Man, those people are so stupid. Really? I read the book and it makes perfect fucking sense. What it says is that if there were in-between species before humans, if there were in-between species going back millions of years before humans, for every permutation that took place, for everything that humans were supposedly before humans existed, there would be fossil remains if evolution were true. There would be, and I'm not saying humans do not adapt to the environment. I am saying to you, evolution is fake. It's fraud. Darwin was a fucking fraud. So check it out. Listen very carefully. If evolution were true, just like Darwinism Under a Microscope, the book states, which I read like almost 20 fucking years ago, if evolution were true, every permutation of those species over the span that is course of millions of years, for everything like from the amoeba, the unicellular going into multicellular, from fucking bacteria into insects, into frogs and amphibians and different types of reptiles and troglodytes and crocodiles and all this kind of shit. From fish, essentially, from fish into reptiles, into monkey chimps, into fucking humans, over millions of years. Like, you can't just leap from an insect to a fish, and then from a fish to a fucking chimp. You can't leap like that. So you have to be a fish that turns into something that has feet on it, that crawls, that's like a blob, like a lobster type shit, okay? It's just some weird fucked up shit, okay? There are billions of different types of species. There are billions of species and organisms and life forms on Earth. Albeit, the story of evolution says that for every one of these organisms, where from that first organism, it morphed, that is metamorphosized, that is transformed ultimately into a human, for every in-between species, going back since time began, there would be fossil remains of every one of those in-between species, including that, obviously, mathematically, scientifically, naturally. There would be all of these things that looked like pre-humans. And then before the pre-humans. And then before the pre-pre-humans. Okay? There would be all of these weird fucking fossils. All over, littering the earth. Scattered around the landscape. They don't exist. Now, listen very carefully. That's where the evolutionists jump in and they say, that's why Darwinism under a microscope itself is fraud. And they try to debunk it. And here's how they try to debunk it. They try to say, but the fossils do exist. But the fossils do exist. But see, you just contradicted yourself. I'm a biologist. I'm an archaeologist. I'm an I'm a scientist. But they do exist. But the fossils do exist. But they do. But they fucking don't. Bitch. They fucking don't, motherfucker. They actually do not. Fucking pseudo-intellectuals. They don't. And that's the point of Darwinism under a microscope. There are fossils, in terms of fossil remains, for the different species that you know about. There are no fossils for the weird fucked up shit that would be all these other in-between weird fucked up organisms if evolution were fucking true. That's the point. If evolution were true, there would be zillions of these other types of fucking fossils. And that's the shit that the evolutionists cannot account for because that shit is non-existent. That's the fucking point. That's the fucking deeper truth reality. There are none of these other in-between fossil things for these fucked up, weird, genetically disturbed, mutated, fucking permutated, fucked up organism species that would naturally exist if over eons there were all these zillions of in-between shits, these blobs and all this kind of stuff. That shit doesn't fucking exist. None of it exists. Any of it exists. Because evolution is fucking fake. So what happened was, aliens came to Earth, advanced beings, extraterrestrial, biological entities, EBEs, visitors from other planets, where what happened on Earth already happened elsewhere. Human DNA, a lot of people don't understand this. DNA travels from throughout the cosmos. DNA travels throughout the cosmos. And that's why when you look at a star, when you look at an asteroid, when you look at a meteorite, when you look at human DNA, our DNA comes from the stars. It comes from outer fucking space. It doesn't come from Earth. DNA was designed to travel to rocks and then become what we are. That's what it is, dude. We're self-replicating. We're self-replicating humanoids. That's exactly what the fuck we are. And we're not just on this rock, we're on other rocks. So when advanced beings found our uprightness here, they saw where we were in terms of our development, and they tweaked our DNA about 66 different times, according to the documents, the scrolls, the declassified and classified information. Because when you look at the math, when you look at the science, when you look at the Gaia Project, for example, when you consider all of the aforementioned, aforestated, the above mentioned, when you look, that is, consider the preceding, it is a scientific fact, come from the stars. Our DNA is found in fucking space rocks because Earth is a rock and there are other rocks out into the cosmos. So it is a scientific fact. It is a fact of science that our DNA is not earthly. It came here from somewhere else. We know that. That's proven. So evolution is absolute total fraud. It's fucking total bullshit. It is the story of the Planet of the Apes. That's what evolutionary theory is. It really truly is the real world equivalent of Planet of the Apes. Nothing short of that. It is an identical parallel to Planet of the Apes, it suggests, purports that we were apes, primates, chimps, baboons, orangutans. The fucking chart of the evolutionists, if they say, no, that's not what it is, no, that's not what we're saying, no, they're contradicting themselves. That's what the motherfucking chart shows. It shows an ape, and then it shows a human. An ape, planet of apes, and then humans. So, not only is evolution bullshit, not only is evolutionary theory bullshit, science, on the other hand, which is diametrically opposed, therefore opposite, in regard to evolutionary theory, science demonstrates irrefutably, incontrovertibly, cannot be refuted, shows that we come from the stars. So since we know that our DNA comes from the stars, that in and of itself disproves evolutionary theory. It shows that evolutionary theory is bullshit. Evolutionary theory says that there was some fucking flashbang, and then all of a sudden there's a soup, and then bacteria, and then complex multicellular organisms, and then from that blobs walking around with little feet and antennae, and whatever, and then uprightness, and with a monkey tail, baboons, chimps, orangutans, and then humans. Yeah, from the hominid ape to humans. Homo sapien. I keep saying homeo because it's fucking, their shit is a Homo sapien. Sapiens. From ape to Homo sapien sapiens. That is their fucking story, dude, of evolution. And none of their story is true. Any of it whatsoever. Now, in conclusion, people who are smart and people who know, when you look at the geological timescales, geological information, when you observe it and you see what DNA looked like millions of years ago, from that point to this point, we know what DNA looked like in early humans millions of years ago, because we have fossil remains of the real fossils that exist. So from pre-humans to here, from point A to point B, when you consider that in relation to what came before that, when you look at the whole mosaic, the whole picture of all these different puzzle pieces, there is therein a time where human DNA, because we know how human DNA operates, there's a time where human DNA leapt 10 million years overnight. We can see that. There's evidence of that. Where DNA on record, because we understand now from having solved and cracked the human genome code, there is a time in genealogical history where human DNA, and this is what the evolutionists don't want you to know, where human DNA leapt 10 million years virtually overnight. And we can see that from radiocarbon dating and other information. We can see that. We have that information on file and on human record. So, since that is the case, the only way that could have happened is by way of outside intervention, that is alien visitor manipulation of our complex human genetic code. They modified our code. and they did it multiple times. We can see that as well. And it happened approximately 66 different times. We have that information. And that's a deeper truth reality. And that's what the evolutionists don't want you to know. Because if you don't know that, then they can control you. If you don't know that, then you can be mind controlled by their barbaric, savage, medieval, primitive system. The irony, man, is that their story is primitive, dude. It's a primitive story that they tell people to control the minds of complex beings that were brought to this planet, that were seated on this planet, because that's their system of enslavement. That's their system of slavery, saying to you, look, you were a fucking monkey and that's what you are. You're a primate. You're a simple being. There is no God. Okay. There is no higher fucking power. So there isn't anything that can fuck with our program on this planet of enslavement. Well, it's not really a planet of enslavement, but they want to enslave you and make it their planet. These people who espouse this type of information, they proselytize and they extol this system that they've created where they teach you this bullshit, this medieval primitive shit in fucking schools, which is all a facade. It's all a fucking lie. It's all made up. It's all a ruse. It's all artifice. It's the grand deception, man. They want to tell you that light speed is a barrier and that it is, and that it's 186,000 miles per second. And that nothing can go faster than the speed of light, because they don't want you to know that you can actually go into space and you don't have to deal with their bullshit. They don't want you to know that there are other planets that are inhabited, because they want to fuck with you on this planet, man. They want to fucking mind control you. They want you to do this. They want you to do that. They want you to believe that you've got to drive around in fucking Stone Age cars, man, that run on fossil fuels. What you know, the irony, fossil fuels. It's all a rigged up fucking system, dude. It's all made up shit, dude. There is no such thing as evolution. It's all a grand scheme. And I'm not talking about in the cosmic sense of it all. I'm talking about in a grand deception scheme of it all. I'm your boy, One Sir Grove.